the Village of Hainesville, to your Village Hall. My name is Linda Soto. I am the mayor of the village. I thank you for that privilege. It's an honor to serve you all. Like all of you, I am here simply to listen and get to know our candidates. That's my only role tonight. But I wanted to thank and acknowledge our village clerk, Kathy Metzler. She is responsible for coordinating this whole effort. And a very special thank you to the League of Women Voters and all their volunteers, because together they provide you with a professional, fair, and equitable forum for you, the voters, and for all of our candidates. So I wish everyone good luck tonight, and at this time I'll turn the floor over to our clerk, Kathy.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Thank you all for attending. I would like to introduce our moderator, Kathy Clay. We have Jeannie Kirby up front that's going to be timekeeping with me. We have Allison Gately in the back, and she and Kathleen Wazik. Basically, both of you guys raise your hands, let them know who you are. They will be collecting cards, your cards for you. If you have any questions, please write them down on the index cards that they are providing. Raise your hand and they will come to assist you. And I'd like to thank all of our volunteers. And I'm going to turn the floor over to our moderator, Kathy.
Thank you very much. I am from the League of Women Voters. The League is a nonpartisan political organization. It encourages information and active participation in government. We do try to educate people as to the issues, but we never take sides. We do not endorse any candidates. Our function is mostly educational and advocacy. We were established in 1920. The League is the nation's most respected grassroots organization. I was joking with somebody the other day. We call a politician and you say you're from the League. I think you get a really quick response, more so than any other group. So I'm really proud to be part of the organization, and thank you for asking me. The candidates, are you going to explain that, or should I?
You know what, you can, but I forgot to introduce Diane Sanderson. I am so sorry. Diane Sanderson has helped us through many of the elections, the forums. She's a Hainesville resident, and she's been a valuable person to the village. So Diane Sanderson.
Yes, I am.
I'm so sorry about that. And you can explain everything if you want, or?
Well, all right, that's fine.
Or did you want me to? It's up to you.
Why would you?
Okay, so the candidates all will have 2 minutes as an opening statement, 2 minutes as a closing statement, and then 1 minute for an answer. So how it'll work, I don't mean to have my back to you. We'll start with George Duberstein with the first question. Then the next round of questions, we start with Mark, and we'll go down the line. So everybody has a chance to be first. Okay, and then I have my signs, 1 minute, 30 seconds, and stop. So.
All right, thank you. I forgot to add one other thing about the League. I am from Waukegan. The League's policy, when there is a moderator requested, is the moderator has to be from outside the community. So thank you. Let's start with the opening statement from George Duberstein. Go ahead.
I want to thank the League of Women Voters and the Village of Hainesville for sponsoring this forum, and all of you for coming out tonight to hear what we have to say. We all appreciate it. I am running for the village trustee to continue my life of service as a 27-year officer in the United States Army and a decorated Vietnam veteran, as a co-owner of a business that helped its clients save thousands of dollars, And as an elected official or a volunteer on various boards and commissions that I've served on in the various communities in which I live, I really care about this village, as evidenced by the many years of volunteer work that I've already done, in which I have also, in some activities, saved the village thousands of dollars. So I feel somewhat bad, and I've been to all of the board meetings, or most of them, and quite a few committee meetings in the 12 years since I've moved to this village, and therefore I feel somewhat conversant in the village activities and procedures, and therefore I feel I can hit the ground running. The details of my expertise and record of service are contained in the brochure that I have in the lobby, which you can take with you. And it covers some of my contributions, resulting in the expertise in financial, asset, personnel, and contract management, as well as human relations. I therefore feel uniquely qualified to serve as a village trustee, which I can enhance the service I already provide to this village. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hainesville.
Good evening. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and giving us this opportunity. I want to give special thanks to the village, Kathy, and the League of Women Voters for basically sponsoring and helping out here. I decided to run for trustee of this village based on my knowledge and background of what's been going on. I've been living here since 1997 when the village population was 200. I've watched it bloom to what it is today. I think we live in a wonderful village, and I think we're going forward. Through volunteering, both down in the city of Chicago for the Salvation Army Emergency Disaster Services and other agencies nationwide, I feel I'm very qualified to help continue the growth of our village. Again, my name is Mark Teichman. I'm running for trustee. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barrett.
Good evening, everybody. It's nice to see everybody here again. I'm Kevin Barrett. I'm the incumbent trustee on the board. I've had the honor and privilege of serving the village of Hainesville for just about 14 years now. I moved here in 1998. Once again, like Mark, when it was a very small community, raised a wonderful family. I have my kids in college. And I want to continue to serve the community because I've had my finger on the pulse of it for this many years. I grew up in a family that always believed in that you only get out of your community what you put into it. And that's been my kind of mantra ever since I've been involved with the board on various projects, different committees, and whatnot. I think the biggest thing that we all need to focus on tonight is, how are we going to move forward? What kind of resources are we going to be able to put together to our village? Only because of the new change in government down in Springfield, it's going to create a very interesting dynamic for us tonight, and for anybody as the elected official within the community. And I want to say thank you very much again to the League of Women Voters. You ladies always do a wonderful job. Kathy and the crew, it's always great to have a function like this. Once again, I'm Kevin Barrett, and I'm running for trustee once again. I appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
Jackie Burns.
Thanks everyone for coming out tonight, and thanks for giving us this opportunity to let you get to know us a little bit better, why we're here, why we're running for village trustee. My name is Jackie Brooke. I've lived in Hainesville for just about 15 years with my husband and my 2 kids. My kids both attended Prairie View School. My son was the kindergarten class the year it opened. Over the years, I've been involved in a variety of volunteer activities through the village, including Hainesville Fest and the Holiday Shop, a variety of other community and sports activities through the schools and outside of the community as well. Professionally, I've been a social worker for over 25 years, and that has allowed me to experience a lot of different, work with a lot of different kinds of people and a lot of different kinds of situations. And it's really helped me to understand and invest in my community and to really care more about what's happening with the residents and how to help the village move forward. So thanks for this opportunity to talk with you today, and my name is Jackie Brown.
Thank you.
Gina Beth Hine.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. It's a gorgeous night, and I'd be out walking or riding my bike if we all weren't here. I've been a resident in Misty Hill since 1996. Me and my family were the fourth family to move in, and we're now currently the oldest family in Misty Hill. People before us have moved on. I helped organize garage sales early on. I helped with public works when we first moved in, facilitated flyers to get to know everybody in our town. So I was involved in the early years. As my children went through school, I volunteered at school, so I wasn't as active as the community back then. But my sons are both in the Army and grown, and so I'd like the opportunity to serve now. When we moved in, we were surrounded by young families, and it's just the best community, and everybody is so close, and we've grown, and I want to continue to make this a wonderful place to live. So I hope I can help you do that for you. Thanks.
Michael Russell.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mayor Soto, Ms. Messler, moderator, all the citizens of the great village of Hainesville. My name is Michael Russell. I've been a resident of Hainesville since 2002. I live in the townhomes, Cranberry Lake North. Currently serve as the Homeowners Association board president right now. I've been on the board for the last 8 years. I've had an opportunity to speak to many of the members of our community, and it's come to my realization that I'm not sure that we have adequate representation on the board from our residents. I'm looking to bring a youthful exuberance to the board. Not to say that there's not one there already, but I've come with many years of business and audit experience working for Fortune 500 companies. I'm currently employed in the Kenosha School District as an IT specialist for the couple of the high schools. So I welcome your vote. I welcome any questions or challenges. I'm here to serve. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. The questions I'm going to start with are directed to everyone, all the candidates. And normally we rotate after the first or second, after each question that's directed to the entire group. And if there is a question which is directed to an individual, after that person finishes, other candidates may respond. So this is a question for all of you, and we'll start the rotation with Mr. Duberstein. The question is, and if you want a question repeated, just ask. What is your number one goal for the community? And you have 1 minute.
Well, there are a lot of things that we have to look at as a community, but I suppose the number one goal at the present time would be to keep our finances squared away, especially in view of the fact that we're going to probably lose some revenue based on what's going on in Springfield and the lack of resources or the cutback in the money that's going to be sent from Springfield to us. So my number one goal in that sense would be to make sure that we keep the financial footing on an equal or sound basis.
Thank you. Mr. Typlin, what is your number one issue?
I have to agree with Mr. Duberstein. My number one issue is going to be finances, but I think the best way to handle that, besides keeping things in check, which our current board has done a fantastic job of, is by expanding our business, commercial, and possibly light industry base. We have a whole area on the south side of our village, and I think we have some great opportunities to expand down that way. Thank you.
Mr. Barrett, what is your number one issue?
Number one issue, I think, is we need to look at making sure that our finances are in check. But we also need to, I think that ties in with the finances, that we need to look at our infrastructure and make sure that we take care of our infrastructure of our basic public services, i.e. water, sewer, garbage, that kind of things, because our infrastructure is 20 some odd years old now, and eventually we're going to have to start looking at putting some money back into it to ensure that our citizens all have clean water and sewer, and that our public works can actually stay functioning to be able to provide these basic services for citizens in the community.
Thank Brown, what is your number one issue?
Well, all issues are important when they impact the village. Finances are important, infrastructure is important, bringing business into the community is important. So I guess if I had to sum it up, I would say balance, finding a balance where all the issues are addressed, each given priority in a way that's going to be most effective for all the residents of Hainesville, to be mindful of the amount of money that's coming in that we have to work with, and balance would be my number one issue, keeping a balance.
Thank you, Mrs. Honey.
I'm already on the board currently, so I do know that our finances are very strong right now. We keep an eye on it very well. We do plan for the future, and I really think that we're doing an excellent job with that, and that's what we need to continue with, because I think overall, everything that happens with finances is what's going to affect us in the long run in any form. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Russell.
Thank you for the question. While I believe our finances and our financial solvency and our pictures may be very good right now, as reported by a couple of our candidates, we must also work while balancing and working on our infrastructure, and keeping a very transparent and cooperative working environment with the citizens and each other on the board of trustees. I would work very hard to establish that kind of relationship with all citizens, especially, like I said, I'm very passionate towards those who live in our townhomes. I'm not really sure if we have all the representation that we would seek or deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is for everyone also, and using the method I said we would rotate, we will begin with number 2, which is Mr. Tygman. The question is, what issues do you agree or disagree with the current administration? Ooh, started again. What issues do you agree or disagree with the current administration?
As I said earlier, I think our current administration is doing quite well. A couple of years ago, I know we dismantled our police department. I was very much against that. I was very vocal against that for a variety of reasons. While we are saving money, which was the primary reason for going to an outside source, and while Grays Lake Police have served us very, very well, the warm, fuzzy feeling that our own police department gave us just is a better thought process. As far as current things, I think they're doing a great job, and I hope we keep going, and I hope to continue that legacy on. Thank you.
Mr. Barrett, since you are an incumbent, I don't know how you're going to answer this.
Boy, it's gonna be a tough one. Well, there's been times where I've gone head to head, toe to toe with, everybody here on certain items. One of them, of course, was the dismantling of the police department. And through a lot of hard work from the mayor and other board members, and finally getting a good chief in place, I believe our police department has really stepped up to the plate and done a good job. One of the things that I'm kind of disappointed in is that, and that we haven't really seen a lot of good results with, is that we've spent a lot of money on the beautification of the entrances, and then the entrances just seem falling apart, and we're constantly putting more and more money into it. I think we could direct our resources to other things right now, and possibly take a look at some other type of permanent type of entrance beautification plan that doesn't require as much high dollar maintenance as we have going on right now.
Thank you. Mrs. Brown.
A few things that I really like about what's going on now is I really like the communication that the board gives when there are issues, when things are coming up. I think they've done a fantastic job letting us know about them, through newsletters, through robocalls, just through other ways to get the word out, to let us know new things are happening, this is what we're planning. With regards, well, the police department was dismantled a few years ago. I don't have any issue with the current police department coordinating with Grace Lake. I think it's running quite smoothly. As a resident, I see the neighborhoods appear very safe. I don't have any complaint about that, and I haven't heard any complaints from my neighbors. Nothing stands out. If elected, then I will be privy to more of the issues that the current board is talking about and working through, and hopefully participate in that. Thanks.
Mrs. Hine, since you are on board,
I'm new to the board, so I am still learning a lot. But from what I've seen, I think the board communicates well within itself and listens to the community and tries to understand everybody's views and find a happy medium and make this a great place to live. So currently, I think everything runs very smoothly, but there's always times when something will come up where you're going to want to voice your opinion, and I would obviously want to listen to that and help to make everything better for everybody. Thank you.
And Mr. Barrett, I'm sorry, Mr. Russell.
Thank you. The one thing that I, as a resident, once again, of the townhomes, I think that we could perhaps work a little better as the board or as a village as a whole at getting out. And the only time I've experienced with communication, as the young lady said, we do a great job of communicating with the robocalls, the emails, but I'm a firm believer of feet on the ground. To be amongst the people. I know we have a couple things where the village has opportunities to come and partake of a couple things within the village during the year, but if we have an opportunity to be with the citizens more, if we can be more of a show of force with the citizens, I think that'd be a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is directed to Mr. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Person, yes.
Thank you.
The question, you want me to repeat it?
No.
All right.
I stand for fiscal responsibility, government transparency, accountability, and a common sense approach to the village issues. And the current administration and the board have done a great job in fulfilling those 4 issues or goals. And I, as a member of the board, would continue in that vein. Now, because of my experience and my expertise in dealing with people both here and overseas, I feel I can be if you will, a force multiplier for the mayor, should she choose to take advantage of that, in dealing with other communities and other businesses that would enhance the value to this particular community. Thank you.
Yes. The next question is a question for Mr. Barrett. The question is, you've been a trustee for 4 years or so. So what has been your special accomplishments as a trustee? And then if anybody else wishes to respond, actually we've answered what you hope to accomplish, so the bottom part, I think I'll just leave it up to anybody who wishes to respond. So Mr. Barrett, you've been a trustee for 4 years. So what has been your specific accomplishments as a trustee?
Specific accomplishments, I think, include, first of all, helping manage and run our Shop of the Cop program every year at Christmas time with the transition of the police departments. That was a very big project where we managed to raise funds and bring approximately 60 different families that were in need of Christmas presents and financial resources for the community during the Christmas time. I've also been an active participant in our Emergency Management Agency Association, working with Mike Banco, who is our Emergency Management Agency Coordinator, and have been able to work with the mayor on transportation and public works committees for the last 4 years, helping oversee a lot of projects and just kind of keep my finger and be the go-to person when somebody needs a question answered or something like that. I participated in a lot of different functions within the community besides Shop of the Cop.
Okay. There is only one other person. Would you like to answer that in any way this time?
I haven't really been on the board long enough to have an accomplishment. I think my accomplishment was probably getting appointed to the position by Mayor Soto. She actually has approached me a few times over the years since I moved in. But again, my priority was our children and just being a part of the community in our neighborhood. I couldn't do it then, but now that I'm here and have been asked to do it, that's what I want to do. So hopefully I'll have some accomplishments later if I'm still on the board.
Thank you. This is a question.
Can I address
Yes,
this?
certainly.
Obviously, I'm not on the board yet, but I have been a volunteer in this village for a long time, so if we want to deal with accomplishments, I co-wrote a successful 100-page bid package for a 5-year plan to restore the federally protected wetlands around Cranberry Lake. I lead the annual village-wide cleanup, volunteered at the various Hainesville Fests. I've co-chaired the cleanup and beautification of village subdivision and entrance meetings in the past. Support the Great Age Club activities, and I provide rides to seniors who don't have vehicles or can't drive anymore. So there's just some of the things that I've accomplished as a volunteer, and I hope to do more as a trustee. Thank you.
Thank you. While you're in the spotlight, I have another question for you. Hainesville has had 2 trustees from the same family before. It didn't work well. If elected, how will your situation be different?
Well, first of all, it is legal, or is precedent, as you mentioned, even here in Hainesville. But rather than focus on some theoretical or vague concerns or some past history, consider instead the actual people involved in the actual situation. Now, I consider myself a thoughtful, analytical, and ethical person, and if I thought there would be any problems going forward, I wouldn't have run. There are no cliques or major controversies on the board. My wife and I work well together. We're not disagreeable. In any event, we ourselves wouldn't even represent a quorum, let alone a majority on the board. Both my wife and I care for this village, and have done much for this village since moving here 12 years ago. And we both work well with the mayor, the staff, and the other trustees. And I see that continuing.
Thank you. There were 2 questions on this issue, so I just combined them in case someone didn't hear exactly what they wrote. This is for Mr. Russell.
Before we get to that, is there an opportunity to rebut the question that was asked
I'm
previously?
sorry. If you wish to comment on, yes, you may comment on that.
Thank you. And I hear you, Mr. Duberstein. I heard Mr. Duberstein's response. And although it doesn't represent, as he stated, an ethical issue or an illegal issue, I think as far as the representation of all the people and a governance issue, I have a concern with that. I was around when we had the 2 members of the family on the board before as a resident of Hainesville. I wasn't part of the meetings, but I heard of the concerns that they had, as villagers had. And I think it represents, once again, a governance issue, even though he stated eloquently how it could be mitigated. And the lack of theoretical concern, it does represent, as far as I'm concerned, a type of governance issue within our village that we could avoid by not doing so. Thank you.
Thank you. We have you in the spotlight. I have 2 questions which I think I can combine, Mr. Russell.
Okay.
You've recently been elected as president of the Cranberry North Townhouse Association. I understand you might have your hands full dealing with local issues there. If you are elected to the Hainesville board, will you keep your Townhouse Association presidency? And how would you handle potential conflicts of interest? Do you have any conflicts on your time or other interests in addition to being the president of the, I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble reading this. I think that's clear what you're asking. Is there any conflict if you are elected, would you resign as president? Do you have any other conflicts that would take your time?
Okay, thank you for the question. Whomever posed those questions, thank you also. I would not resign my position as president. I feel that we can adequately represent the association as well as the village. I would actually try to synergize both of those positions into effective governance and leading, working to lead a community. As the president, I often work with our homeowners association board to get things accomplished. I've worked with the mayor. I've attempted to work with the mayor with the issue that we're trying to get done now. But I could feel that I can adequately serve both entities at the same time.
So you answer this question.
Okay.
You resign, the answer is no.
No, that's correct.
Okay.
And as far as conflicts, I have no conflicts working with the board presidency and being on the board of trustees.
Okay. Does
Can I
any-
address that?
Yes, I was just going to ask you, does anybody else wish to address that issue?
One conflict that is possible if you continue to serve on both entities. We have 4 acres on the northwest corner of Cranberry Lake that currently belong to the townhomes. And the village has been looking to maybe purchase or get a hold of that because it has a great bit of invasive species that provide a seed bank for the rest of the cleanup that we're trying to do in Cranberry Lake. And as both positions, how it seems to me there would be a conflict because the board has one position and the homeowners association would have another. So as a minimum, I guess you'd have to recuse yourself in this discussion.
Does anybody else wish to respond?
Including me?
Okay, go ahead.
Including me.
Of
Thank
course.
you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Duberstein, for the question. The conflict was mitigated by the fact that we were looking to donate the land. So there would be no exchange of goods or services vis-a-vis the land. So what we're working with now, and I'm not sure how much of a cat I'm laying out the bag, is working with the mayor and the attorneys for both the village and our homeowners association is to try to find a way to get hold of the owners and have the necessary ownership vote to do those things. We're not looking to sell the land as presently constituted, but we are looking to donate the land. We're not looking to make any money off this as an association. Thank you.
All right, I'm not sure of the controversy, so I'm going to ask Mr. Duberson this question, which I believe has to do with this as I read it. Is it true, Mr. Duberson, this is for you. Is it true you want to extend the special services assessment for Cranberry Lake and the wetlands to all residents?
No, that was established based on the agreement that the developer had with the Corps of Engineers to be able to do the development. And that SSA has to do only with the confines of Cranberry Lake and the subdivisions that are on this side of Hainesville Road. So, no, I wouldn't expand the SSA to the other side of Hainesville.
All right, is that answer clear to everybody? Okay, does that answer, does anyone else have an opinion on this, wish to respond? All right, thank you. All right. This question is for everyone, and we'll start with number 3 in the rotation, which is,
I already started.
no,
Oh, no, I'm
No,
sorry.
no.
Go ahead. No, that's right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're not, number 3.
No,
Okay.
Yes, I am. I'm number 3.
Yes, you're number, this is a new question.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
New question. New question. All right, starting with Mr. Barrett. Whether a candidate is an elected official seeking re-election or resident seeking election, should the candidate's attendance at village board meetings be a consideration?
Absolutely. I started out, before I ever ran for office many years ago, attending board meetings at the request of former Mayor Miller, former Mayor Miller, just to start learning how the village operates and how to get a pulse of it. I grew up in a family where my father was a councilman and alderman in my hometown community in Wisconsin, so I've been around that for quite a while as a kid. But I think it's a good thing that people take an active involvement in their community to learn what's going on the day-to-day issues, plus the bigger picture of the entire process of running a community, versus just coming into it cold and then sitting down here at the board going, okay, I'm ready to go, and look that way. So I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it.
All right. Mrs. Brunk, how do you feel about it?
I think it's also important to attend the board meetings so you know what's happening, how things are run, sort of the logistics of it. I have not attended as many board meetings as I would like to have. I've been to various board meetings, school board meetings and other types of board meetings. But I would agree with Mr. Barrett that I do think it's important to at least have some knowledge of what the current issues are and how the board is working through those, working together as a board, if there's any conflicts, and how they continue to persevere in the interest of the village.
Thank you. Mrs. Connie?
I guess I kind of take a different view. While I've been on the board, I have noticed that there have not been a lot of people attending the meetings. I don't really think that's a really bad thing. I think it kind of maybe means that everybody is happy with the way things are going and you're watching it on YouTube, and if you have a concern, you're going to come and address it when you need to, or you're going to approach your trustee. You know of other towns, and when they have their meetings, it can be hard because people are unhappy and they're there to complain and make their views known, which we want you to do. I just think it's kind of a good thing that we're listening to you when you come, and if you have nothing that you need to say, you can watch it on YouTube and enjoy the community the way it is.
Thank you. Mr. Russell?
Well, while I believe it's important to stay versed on the issues of the community, thanks to the invention of YouTube, you can stay abreast of those situations. One of the aspects that we have by not attending per se as often is the benefit of perspective of a different view, where it would not be necessarily influenced by the things that you've witnessed in person. You get a different perspective when you attend or when you watch online versus when you're here. I've attended and I've watched online. You can stay well versed either way, and I believe that is the best way as far as my candidacy is to approach this situation. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Representative.
Well, I'm certainly not biased. Since I've been to all the board meetings, or most of them since I've been here in various committee meetings, I understand people's lives get in the way and they're busy, and they can, now that the village has put all meetings on YouTube and people can watch it at their leisure. And that's a good thing because everybody can't make it to the meeting. But in my case, I feel it was important to go to the meetings because you get a better feel for what's going on. And you can also ask questions right then and there, if you have any, of the board or of in the committee meetings and so forth. So for me, it was a valuable approach to things.
Mr. Chamberlain?
I would have to say the answer to the specific is yes. It is important to be here so you get a feel for what's going on, you understand how the process works and what's happening. Is that the be-all, end-all of what's going to happen? Obviously, no. And anybody can learn from YouTube as far as how it's going on. But being here gives everybody a much better feeling as far as what's happening.
Thank you. I have a note about something in regard to the conflicts would be discussed with Mr. Russell. Does anyone else have a conflict that they feel they should respond to? No? Okay. This is a question for everyone, and we start with Miss number 4, which is Mrs. Brooke. And the question is, what issue or project that has not been addressed by the current trustees would you like to see addressed during your term of office?
Wow. I'm not sure how this is presented, but I honestly don't have a big issue. I'm really satisfied with the way the village is being run, and maybe that's kind of a passe way to express myself, but part of the reason I want to be involved is because I'm impressed with the way things are going, and I'm happy with the way the village is going. I recognize that there's always limitations, there's always funding issues, there's always, people have different priorities. But at this point, I don't have a major issue that I want to see go through. I may if I'm elected.
Okay. Mrs. Hine?
Yeah, I don't really see anything right now as a major issue. I would want us to continue to try to court more businesses to help our tax base. I think that's really what is going to help us with our revenue and continue to make this a great place to live and make us successful in every way. So that's what I would want to help us do.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Russell?
Thank you. I would like to see the village to continue to cultivate an atmosphere or fertile ground for businesses to be attracted to the village. While at the same time, I would like to see personally the 4-acre thing be put to bed. Yes and no, yeah and nay, preferably the yay. I would work towards that still, hopefully from both sides. But to get more businesses in this area will be a great benefit to all parties and to all residences. Thank you.
Mr. Dudenstein?
Well, once again, I'm very satisfied with the way the village is being run. One couple of things I might look at, and evidently it's on the road to some fruition, and that's getting that 4 acres in the northwest corner so we can get in there and get rid of the invasive species. Obviously, I would also agree with the candidates who mentioned getting more business. And one thing we might look at, and I don't know the details, but consolidating some of the services, like I know that some of the townhomes have separate contracts with trash pickup and so forth, and maybe if we did it village-wise, we might get some economies of scale savings.
Thank you. Mr. Patrick?
My primary focus would be on the economics of the village. Again, financially, I think our village board over the past several years has done a great job, but we've got all this vacant land that we own and or can annex, and I think it would be a great addition, not just to bring the retail along 120, 134 Hainesville Road, but bring in some light industry and light commercial, along future corridors.
Thank you. Mr. Barrett?
I agree with Mark. I would like to see some more business, and when I did an interview with the Daily Herald, I think one of the projects that I'd like to accomplish that didn't get done this last term is to find somebody to work with the mayor, to find somebody to actively go out and market the village and approach businesses from a standpoint, because me being in the sales role with my company and my job, you have to be out there knocking on doors. These companies and businesses just aren't going to come running to you. You have to make yourself attractive to them. And I think that would be a good one. The second one that we really need to focus on is make sure that we protect our finances so we can maintain our infrastructure.
Thank you. The next question is a two-part, and it is for everyone. First part is, With potential cuts in local share of tax, how will you work with Mayor Soto, staff, and department heads to maximize benefit to the village? Which I think somebody touched on it already. And then the follow-up, we can take this in two parts. What two budget items do you see vital, and what two budget items do you feel are not necessary to maintain the village? Would you like to break this up into two parts? Why don't we? It seems to make more sense. So, with potential cuts in local share of tax, how will you work with Mayor Soto, staff, and department heads to maximize benefit to the village? And we start this one with Mrs. Hunt.
I think we go back to bringing in our own revenue and finding ways to save money on our own if we're not going to be able to get it from grants, which we would continue to look for other forms to get money brought into the village, and just find ways to save money, not spend as much, maybe put things off that we don't have to do, but not necessarily put things off that are going to cost us more money if we don't do them when they need to do. So I think we just have to look really critically at our spending and our savings. It goes hand in hand, and do what we need to do as the time comes. But revenue is a big deal on getting it on our own so that we don't have to rely from the government, anybody else.
Mr. Russell, would you like me to read that again?
Yes, please.
Okay. With potential cuts in local share of tax, how will you work with the mayor, the staff, and department heads to maximize benefit to the village?
Okay, thank you. Well, the main thing, once again, is to keep our revenue, our tax base up. While doing that, you must maintain, and I'll piggyback the second part, we must maintain safety/fire protection for the village and all of its residences. At the same time, we must also keep our infrastructure up, as Mr. Baird has alluded to a couple of times. Very important. We also have to work on looking at the things that could be eliminated. Now, nobody's in favor of eliminating anything. We spend a lot of money on beautification, as reported, as much as is needed. I mean, if possible, or if push come to shove, that would be one of the things. Also, maybe some of the fests that we do, the outdoor stuff, that we can hopefully not have to eliminate, but at that point, if we had to do it, we'd be on the block, if you will. Thank you very much.
All right. Back to Mr. I lost you just a minute. Should be Mr. Weaver start.
Okay, well, first of all, the village has recently, maybe the last couple of years, gone to a zero-based budgeting approach, which means that every line item is scrubbed to begin with, rather than starting from what we have and expanding it beyond. So, and there are 36 line items in the general fund of places that we get revenue. Obviously, the state income tax portion is the largest, but there are other places where we get money. So one thing would be to scrub the budget and look at it very carefully and see what's important, what can go by the wayside or be put into future years. Another would be to get more business in here to raise the sales tax base and other innovative things.
Thank you. Mr. Tyler.
Personally, I am against cutting any programs that are out there. However, I also know our tax base is limited, both from the income standpoint as well as real estate standpoint. Most of our real estate taxes go to our schools, so obviously there we would need to find something else. Within the village, it's basically, if it's not an absolute necessity and we need to cut back, that's where we start and then we go from there. To me, our most important is our infrastructure, because that's what helps us out, and our protection, police, fire, etc.
Mr. Barrett.
I agree that we have to scrub the budget. That's an absolute must. I agree that we have to maintain public safety. We also have to maintain our infrastructure, and after that, If we need to make necessary cuts, whether it's beautification, whether it's, we cut back on some of our wetland projects, or whether we cut back on some of our water resource projects, that's, if we have to put it off for a while, if we can, we can. And then, then if we have to start, putting away, Hainesville Fest and some of the other public activities that brings the community together short term, then I guess we have to do it, because in order to be fiscally responsible, we can't spend what we don't have.
Thank you. Mrs. Brown?
I think that's absolutely right. We can't spend what we don't have, and we have to be clear of what we have already, and we have to figure out how we're going to spend it, and prioritizing, taking the triage approach. What is absolutely necessary at this time? Safety, infrastructure, absolutely necessary. When we talk about cutting back is different than eliminating. Perhaps there's ways that we could cut back some of the things we're already doing them more efficiently, not spending as much on any one event or any one project. We all have our passions, we all have things that we want to see happen. But efficiency is really key, especially in these uncertain economic times. We're not alone. We don't know what we're going to get, but we need to find out exactly how much is coming in and how we're going to spend it.
Mrs. Hine?
In regards to what we would possibly have to cut or keep, I think it's vital that we keep Grays Lake as our police department, pooling of resources that we get from them with the SWAT team in NIBUS and the community-oriented policing, the fact that they have a police officer at our high school where our children go, it's all connected, and I think that's just very important. And then in regards to what we would have to cut, if anything, again, some of the wetland priority type of things we might have to move, but I think it's all subjective to what you need to do, and we can look at it as we go.
The second half of the question, we're going to start with you, Mr. Russell. What two budget items do you see vital, and what two budget items do you feel are not necessary to maintain the village?
As stated previously, nobody likes to cut, nobody likes to see things eliminated. The things that we've spoken of already, the wetland issues, the concerns, the festivals, although they're painful to see eliminated or put off, those things would be things that we could take a look at. As far as the things that we would continue, was that one part of the question? Things we would continue?
Yes, two that you would cut and
Okay.
two that you would continue.
Continue. We would definitely want to continue our safety, our fire police, our infrastructure. Very important to have those things as people come in and out of the village. To be able to actually traverse the area is very vital. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Duberson.
Well, I would agree that the safety issues of fire protection, police protection are important as the infrastructure is, so I would have to agree with that. I don't know exactly what I will eliminate. I know that in some cases with the festival we have in the village, a lot of the funds are honored by contributions from local businesses, so there isn't a lot of detriment as far as the village finances go. I know with the beautification, it not only deals with the quality of life and the way the village is portrayed, but also in some cases would deal with cleaning up the inflows and outflows of various areas, and that would prevent flooding.
Mr. Tech.
And budget items that I would keep, as I said before, I'm very much against cutting anything if it can be avoided. Keeping our protections, keeping our services in place through public works, that includes our infrastructure. Cutting anything, I'd have to look at everything in a lot more detail than I have to really give a specific. Like I said, I'm very much against cutting it, and if we can find a way to make it work with what we have, that's what I would like to do.
Mr. Barrett.
Public safety and infrastructure are paramount to the community. I am not against when the contracts come up, to sit down and sharpen the pencil instead of, arbitrarily taking, certain percentages of cost increases per the length of the contract. As for cuts, I don't like to cut anything, but if we have to take a look at something, I would imagine it would be along the lines of beautification, wetlands, things like that, to allow us to use that money to market the community, to help bring in more businesses and possibly take a look at improving our tax revenue that way.
Okay. Mrs. Brook?
Well, I do agree that safety and infrastructure are really important, and I also think that the other areas are very important too. Hainesville is a village as a whole, and when we look at inviting others to set up shop in our village, or residents feeling safe and supported here in the community, I think all items need to be looked at and scrutinized. And like I said before, perhaps being more efficient with the way we're spending the resources that we have. Cutting any one thing could negatively impact the other. If we cut back too much on beautification, then we're not an attractive town and businesses aren't going to come here. So we need to be very careful and have a balance.
Thank you. Ms. Time?
You actually started the question with the first part of the question with me, and then when you came around,
I know.
after Jackie, so I already answered it.
So,
So
yes, you did. Okay, thank you. Yes, it's redundant. And I'm also getting questions about the conflict, having a job as president of the association and being on the board. And I think that has been addressed, but does anyone else on the panel in front of you wish to respond to that? All right, thank you. Some of these are kind of multi-layered, so let me see. All right, next question. But at this point, we're going back to we're going back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. This is a question for everyone. We have a bicentennial split community where two halves are under very different circumstances. Since beautification and environment is important to all of us, how would you equitably approach financial resources, or would you, outside the SSA issue? So we're going to, would you like to repeat it?
You started the last question with me, but I could go first if you want.
Yeah, all right. I was just going to try to run the round again.
Okay, so starting with Mr. Dugas.
That way. All right. So would you like this repeated? All right. We have a bicameral, we have a bicameral, in other words, a split community, where two halves are under two different circumstances. Since beautification and environment is important to all of us, how would you equitably approach financial resources outside the SSA issue? Think about that. Okay, we're going to start where we're going to go back to the first round. So Mr. Duberson.
Well, the SSA is federally mandated, so we're locked into that for this part, for the west part of Hainesville. On the east part, things would come out of the general fund, and there is consideration now for another 5-year plan to deal with various ponds and open spaces in the east part of Hainesville. And that would give some support to the other side of Hainesville, as we have in the previous 5-year plan given to this side.
Mr. Piper?
From my knowledge of the SSA, it is specific to Cranberry Lake and the subdivisions immediately around it. As far as the east side and the south side, the older parts of Hainesville, it's basically money, if it needs to be spent, it needs to be spent to make everything happen. I would be very prudent. I would look at things carefully, saying, does this need to be spent to make it happen and make it right, or can we delay it a little bit, you know, if there's lack of money available. But I would definitely give the east side and the south sides of Hainesville as much as we give to Cranberry Lake if it's there to do so.
All right. Mr. Barrett?
The SSA for the Cranberry Lake SSA and the residents over in that area, that funds a lot of improvements and work on Cranberry Lake and the not the infrastructure, but the surrounding areas with the remediation of Blackthorn, or George and Georgianne both did a pretty big project on restoring the walking path along Cranberry Lake. So a lot of that was spent there. And at the time, a lot of the east side and the south side of Hainesville was left kind of awash. So I'm not opposed to spending money to start taking care of the ponds and the wetlands within our community on the quote-unquote other side of Hainesville Road. However, we have to make sure that we have the funds that are available to do it, number one, and number two, to make sure that the spending is done prudently so that we don't get into more or less a spending match as who's got the most cash for what side of town. That's going to create a lot of, indiscretion, well, not indiscretion, but differences amongst opinions.
Mrs. Brown?
That's kind of linked with the other questions with regards to how money is spent. I mean, you don't want to be penny smart and dollar foolish and just take care of things in the short term, and somewhere down the road you're going to need some extensive project. Forgive my innocence, my ignorance. I don't know what the SSA is, but I'm assuming it's some type of federal money that is spent for environmental ag. So addressing the issues as they come up, and if there's things that need to be taken care of, then we take care of them with resources that we have available.
Thank you. Mrs. Hine?
I just think we need to be fiscally responsible with the decisions. We want to make our community beautiful. We want to make it inviting so that businesses will come, so that we can have more revenue. So we just have to take it each as it comes and make the right decisions at that time, and be cognizant of all of Hainesville, not just this side or that side, or this subdivision or that subdivision. We're a community, and we need to be all together and make it one for everybody, so that everybody's happy here and so that people want to come.
Thank you. Mr. Russell?
Thank you. While I agree with all the other sentiments, it's very important that we do not create a haves and a have-not scenario here. While being prudent and making sure that we can cover the expenses that would be needed, we want to include the entire village, as I stated before. This is an area where we have an opportunity for inclusion. Instead of, like I said, creating the have and the have-nots. We must work within the confines of our budgetary standpoint and make sure that we can keep the area on the east side just as good as the area on the west side. Thank you.
All right. This question is for everyone. And we'll start with Mr. What ideas do you have to improve our residents' quality of life?
That is a real unique question. as a whole, I think our quality of life is good. I think the services that our village offers is fantastic. If they can be maintained, given the current budget constraints that are upcoming, obviously I would like to not only maintain them, but increase them. But it's gonna really depend on what's there. I love our fests. I love what the village does for us as residents, and I think we need to keep it going.
Thank you. Mr. Barrett?
Wow, that's a really broad brushstroke.
Yeah, it is.
What would I do to improve the quality of life? Well, the only thing I could think of is that if we could ever get the Illinois DOT off their butts and see what we could do about getting some more turn lanes and improving the traffic flow on 120. I travel it all the time. I know there's a lot of other people that do, and it's been a constant source of headache since Lake County started growing here in the central portion for the last 5 to 10 years. Our services are all good. I couldn't ask for any better. Snow plowing services, our garbage services are good. Police and fire is good. This has just been a fantastic community to live in, and it's been an honor to serve it. So I have no other things to do outside of look at 120. That's got to be something to do to improve that in Washington.
Thank you. Mrs. Brown?
I also love our community, and I'm also impressed with the quality of life we have here. If elected, I would like to reach out more to the residents to ask what they would like us to do as a board. How can we improve their perception of the village and how they would like to improve the quality of life? What are their complaints? Supporting the community as a whole. It's difficult going forward because a lot of times community events are the first things to get cut from the budget to try and embrace the community as a whole. So it takes some more creativity on our part to get feedback from the residents.
Thank you. Mrs. Hine? No, come on, Dawn's here. Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank
I
you.
think it's actually up to each of us to improve our own quality of life. It's what you make it, and I started biking around our subdivision a year and a half ago, and I started doing 12 miles through Misty Hill and Deer Point. And just seeing all the houses and seeing how well kept they were and seeing everybody outside and seeing everybody happy, I think our quality of life here is great. And it's what you make it, and you want to continue to improve it, and you want to know your neighbor and just be happy, and that's what you need to do. I'm sure that there are totally ways that we can improve it, and I would hope that I'd be able to help doing that. And you can stop me while I'm riding my bike and tell me what I can do to help you.
Thank you. Mr. Russell?
I also believe that our quality of life is great. This is a great village and a great community to live in. I am a proud, unapologetic citizen of Hainesville. But there's things that can be done within each one of us. As I walk especially my townhome community, I'm often stopped and asked, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about that? And I tell people, one of the first things I learned is, board members, and I'm sure the village board is the same, are not the police. We're not the judge and the jury. Everybody has to look within their own self, to help their quality of life. At the same time, the village, it could be a very bigger presence on the streets. The board members can be a bigger presence other than where they live to help know the other people, let the other people know that we do have a board here. In the 12 years I've been a resident of Hainesville, I'm going to stop. Thank you.
Mr. Duberstein?
I would agree with my compatriots here that we have a great village, and I'm really proud to live in it. As far as quality of life, I think going around with success is talking to some of the neighbors, which I have done, and canvassing for this election. And when I go out about my walks in the village, I talk to people and get their feeling for what they really want. And I would look by being an advocate for the village, for the individuals. I've talked to many people. They have some things that they've brought up, and I've been able to go to the village on their behalf, and I would continue to do that, certainly as a board member, to be their advocate and work to solve their problems helping out. And I think by bringing some more businesses in there, that will help quality of life as well.
Thank you. This question, I think, has been answered in some respects, but I'm going to ask it and give you time if you were to add something you said before. Is there a village strategic plan of short-term objectives that addresses stability or growth of funding, such as infrastructure, business development, etc.? And we start with Mr. Barrett.
Yes, we do have a short-term and a long-term plan that the board is presently executing and working with Al Maiden and the mayor and our legal staff to presently look at how we're going to react to if there are budgeting shortfalls. The finance committee, I know, has been talking about that. There's also a longer-term plan out there to look at how we're going to continue to stay growing within the confines of the village, considering that we're landlocked and we're out of places to put up homes, but we still do have room to put a little bit of retail in out on the other sides of town. So yes, we do have a plan in place and it's currently being executed.
Mrs. Brock.
I would defer to Mr. Barry. If there's a plan, then that's, I don't know the details of the short-term and the long-term strategic plans.
Thank you. Mrs. Hainesville.
Like Kevin said, we do have a plan, and it's something that needs to be reevaluated constantly and changed and updated, and we need to do what we need to do as the time comes. But we are ready, and we do have ideas of what we need to do for the village.
Mr. Russell.
Thank you. I would once again defer to Mr. Barrett, but at the same time, I would say that I do have extensive experience in strategic planning, both long-term and short-term. So as a member of the board, I would be able to assist in those issues and aid in those concerns as far as getting our long-term plan brought to bear and our short-term plan. I do have extensive experience in those things, and I look forward to working with the board on those. Thank you.
Mr. Duberstein.
I do know that we have a comprehensive plan that was updated in 2010. Obviously, things happen in this village and the surrounding areas, so it does, as mentioned, does need to be updated on a frequent basis. In my many long years in the military, I've done a lot of planning, one sort or another, so I can bring some of that experience to bear in looking at our comprehensive plan and adjusting accordingly to the situations that occur in the village and the surrounding areas.
Mr. Tudd.
I am aware of a comprehensive plan, and while I'm not sure on the specifics of it, I think what has happened so far is okay. The lack of commercial, industrial, retail development in this area over the last 8 years during the downturn of the economy, I think has hurt us, and I think we do need to focus on growing that. And that needs to be included and incorporated, and if we have to adjust the plan as a result, I think we need to do that.
Thank you. This question is for everyone. What are your views on the increasing percent of renters in the village versus ownership? How do you work toward bringing more long-standing homeowners into the village? And we start with Mrs. Brock.
Well, there are, you're saying there's more renters in the village than, the increasing number of renters in the village than homeowners. Somebody owns the property and somebody is renting it out. To maintain long-term stays here in the village, to keep the village quality of life high, to address the residents' needs, to be fiscally responsible, I think we need to address the very same issues for residents who live here permanently and for residents who live here if they're only renting. And who's to say that people who rent don't rent long-term because they just really love the village and they want to stay here too? I think we need to address all of their needs the same and treat them all the same.
Thank you. Mrs. Hine.
I really agree a lot with what Jackie said. Just because somebody's renting isn't a bad thing. Just because somebody leaves our village isn't a bad thing. Sometimes you just have to move and you may not want to. I think it's important that we make sure that the renters' homes are kept up properly, just like somebody who owns their home. They need to follow, the village rules in maintaining their lawn and keeping their house presentable. I agree.
All right, Mr. Russell.
Thank you. In our community, we had established a cap on percentage of renters. We also worked to establish a TAP program for the tenant to lease successfully, working with the landlord. But as our homes became more and more vacant because of the economic downturn, we were faced with the possibility of having vacant units versus having renters in units. We took a long look at that and we came to the conclusion it's better to have the units rented than vacant. I believe that could be applied in the village-wide aspect also. You don't want empty homes. You don't want vacant homes. So as long as we can establish some type of rules of residency, making sure that they go through a process of background and make sure that they are well versed with our village rules and conduct themselves in a way, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I would have to agree that it's better to have somebody in the house rather than let it go vacant. On the other hand, human nature being what it is, we found that in some cases the renters have a little less pride in their facilities than the owners do, and we've in some cases had problems with that. So I wouldn't want to see, I don't know what the percentage would be, but I wouldn't want to see a great deal of rented property in the area rather than having some more permanent ownership and private ownership. But again, I agree that I'd rather see something not be vacant if we can do that, because then we have all kinds of problems.
Mr. Shedlin.
Personally, I have no issues with renting. Whether you're paying rent or you're paying a mortgage or you bought it outright, you feel your ownership in that property. The village, as well as the different townhome associations, have rules and regs that are in place to monitor what's going on. As long as we all follow that procedure and those rules, I think it's good. I think the more people that are here, the more involvement our community is going to be and the better everybody's going to be. I don't like to see vacant property at all.
Thank you. Mr. Barrett.
In the past we've had issues with a lot of empty homes due to the economic downturn. I've started to see more rentals within the community, within my own neighborhoods. However, as long as the landlords or property owners that are doing the renting maintain and monitor the tenants that are in there, and that they actively participate in taking care of their homes and keeping properties up to snuff, I think it's a much better scenario than to have empty vacant units, which is just an invitation for short-term crime and things like that to happen within the community.
All right, thank you. This question is for all of you, and we'll start with Mrs. Hine. What are your motivations for running, in this case, on Lauren Common? And what can you bring to the table?
Well, my motivation is I love this village. I think it's a great place to live. Our kids are grown now. I have the time. I do have a full-time job, but I'm available to be on the board. I want to help make it a wonderful place for all of us to live. And I was also slightly motivated by Linda approaching me again to be part of the board. I think she feels that I would do a good job and I have a lot of qualities that would be helpful, and I work well with the current board now, so I think I would continue to do so. So that's my motivation.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Russell?
My motivation is a motivation for servitude. I've served on many boards, currently serving on many boards, and as the president of our homeowners association, once again, I feel that we can be better represented throughout our community by having people from a broad swath of life experiences and locations, even within the village. It's a small village, but we tend to have all of our board residency or board members in one geographic region within that small area. So I'm looking to expand that to represent our homeowners association and all of the village. Thank you.
Mr. Duberstein?
Well, as I've said, I really care about this village, as evidenced by my long years of volunteer work. And my whole life, as I've said, has been one of service of one sort or another. And I just feel, given what I've done for the village, that I can do more with my expertise and experience by being on the board. And wouldn't you want another hardworking, dedicated board member?
Thank you. Mr. Tackler?
My motivation is myself. I believe in the American system. I believe in the village of Hainesville. I've considered running several times in the past and just didn't get up enough courage to do so, and I felt it's my time. I work from home, so I'm in the village almost all the time, and I think it's a great place to do business. I think we should go ahead and push forward.
Thank you. Mr. Barrett?
Motivations. I thoroughly enjoy living here in this village. It's been a great community. I've raised a family here. I was brought up in a background that you only get out of your community what you put into it. My father and my mother were both active in the communities that I grew up in Wisconsin, and I've maintained a level of commitment to our community through various activities ever since I've lived here, and I think it would be just a great time for me to continue my services to the community from the standpoint that we've got a lot of good things going on, and I'd like to have that be my legacy as I leave the community someday, that I know that I've put my footprint on it and that it's a better place because I've been here.
Thank you. Mrs. Rucker?
My motivation is involvement and to be part of my community. I really care about the village of Hainesville. I have lived here for almost 15 years. It's a great place to live, a great place to raise my kids, and I want to be more involved. This would be the next step. I've done a lot of volunteer activities. I've gotten to know the mayor and many, many residents, and this is my next step up. I want to become more involved. I'm invested in the community, and I want to be part of the decision making and offer my services to the village.
I have one more question, and then we'll do the closing statements. The question is, and it's for all of you, several have mentioned the need to attract more business or light manufacturing to Hainesville. Could you give a specific example of an action that an individual trustee could take to reach this goal or further this goal? Could you give an example of Could you give an example of an action that the board as a whole could take? So is there something specific you feel you could do, and what could the board do as a whole? And we'll start with Mr. Russell.
That's correct. Thank you. Individually, I've been versed in approaching businesses before, for the church I work for and the church I work with, and in my previous positions in the business world. So I could approach businesses. I could work to attract and retain businesses and corporations individually. As a board, I think we pretty much have a pretty good grip on attracting businesses as a board as presently constituted. I would work to continue that effort. Thank you.
Mr. Duberstein.
Well, realistically speaking, the attraction of new businesses and the relationship with them is really a function of the mayor. But with my experience again in dealing with people in corporations, both here and in Europe and in Asia, I feel I could help the mayor, if she so desired, to reach out to various businesses and deal with them on an effective basis. I think the board then would approve, you know, what we came up with. I don't necessarily see, unless the mayor so desired, to have all the board members go out and do various things. But as I said, my experience is such that I can certainly help the mayor in that respect by dealing with people and corporations.
Mr. Tyler?
Personally, I think we could develop, either we could come up with an economic development committee or something along that line that can brainstorm, troubleshoot why we haven't attracted more businesses, and then take and hopefully correct some of those problems, and then go out with the mayor and the full board approval to approach other businesses out there. Whether it's a local mom and pop shop with a little boutique for us, or a multinational company that wants to open up a factory in some of our vacant land.
Thank you. Mr. Barrett?
I think, yes, it's primarily, it's you know, the responsibility of the mayor, but the mayor and the board has to put together some type of a group or committee to, I guess, start the research and then put together, through technology, create a website, create a marketing program, profile what type of businesses you would like to bring into the community, and then put together a list of targets and go out and execute them. It's no different than me doing my sales job with the transportation companies I work for. Put together something like that, go out, put together a list of targets, and then constantly keep that as a living document and move it in, and have it as a moving target to go out and, you know, constantly stay in front of potentials that can bring businesses or other types of revenue streams to the community.
Thank you. Mrs. Brown?
I think as residents of the village, we already have our ears to the pavement. We already are talking to other people. Board members are working outside of their position on the board too, so they collaborate with a variety of other people, other businesses. I think we have to use the resources that we have and all the creative juices we can put together by collaborating with other residents, other businesses, talking with the businesses that we have here, asking them what works, what doesn't work, and growing in that respect. Keeping knowledgeable of large corporations or businesses that are looking to expand, and keeping our village attractive so that we can attract more businesses.
And Mrs. Hine?
I don't really know if there's a rule about approaching the owner of a store or not, and letting them know, hey, I really like a Culver's in my subdivision, so that we can provide some jobs to our teenagers, and, you know, not necessarily increase a ton of traffic coming through, but generate some revenue and, you know, someplace for our kids to go and somewhere for them to have a job. So I would certainly be willing to, you know, approach an owner of a store and say, hey, you know, we have a wonderful little town. Maybe you should come and look at it and talk to our board and our mayor and see if it's something you'd like to do. And then for the board, I think we just need to make it an enticing, welcoming place that they can financially afford to come to and want to stay.
Thank you. All right, closing statements. 2 minutes each. And actually, in the rounds, we're back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is how we started. So I'm going to take the prerogative as moderator and start at the end. All right?
Thank you. Thank you once again to our moderator, to our mayor, Kathy. Kathy did a great job getting everybody together. Once again, I thank you, the citizens of this great village, for coming out tonight and listening to us. We've all said a lot of things, and a lot of stuff we've said kind of in concert with each other. And we didn't draw very many contrasts one to another. But that also speaks to how tight the community is, where everybody pretty much thinks the same way. We have a couple differences, a couple variations. But one of the things that I personally would like to do is impress upon you guys my experience as working 20 plus years in Fortune 500 companies, working a lot with audit committees and business startup committees within these companies. My experience is working with churches, trustees on churches and other various boards, and the current homeowners association. I have a lot of experience, and I welcome this opportunity to serve. I ask you for your vote, and in the very near future, the next couple of days, I will be embarking on a listening campaign throughout this village. And I welcome you guys to come with any concerns or thoughts you may have, and I welcome it again. Thank you very much.
I guess it might really be cliche, but I really love this town and I love the people in it. And I feel fortunate to have found it when I did and to continue to be here. I think my background in accounting, along with my knowledge of public safety, would be really helpful to the board. I'm a financially responsible person personally and with other people's money with the business that I work in. And I think that's just key. I want to help make Hainesville a great place for all of us to live. And, you know, I think I'd be a great asset to the board. I think the current board is doing a great job. I'm not a political person. I have no agenda. I just want to help and make it a great place to live, and I hope I can do that for you. So, thanks.
Mrs. Brown?
Similar to Dina, I don't have a hidden agenda. I'm here to serve my community. I want to be more involved with the community. There's obviously a lot of talent up here. There's a lot of creative ideas. There's a lot of knowledge. And I don't have a lot of the detailed knowledge that a lot of other of the candidates have, but I have the energy, and I've been active in the community. I am involved. I can be thoughtful and open-minded, and I want the best for our community. I can work well with any of the board members to address the needs of the village as a whole and any issues that residents bring forth.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the community. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve this community for the last 4 years. I want to thank the mayor and Kathy and the League of Women Voters for putting together this wonderful forum. It's been a great exchange of information and ideas and listening to what all the candidates have to say. Basically, what I would like to do for this next term is I'd like to focus on protecting our resources, whether it's our finances, whether it's our infrastructure, whether it's expanding our business, whether it's protecting our watersheds. Those are all very important, integral parts of our community, and that's something that I would really like to focus on this time around, especially, you know, the thoughts about possibly, you know, bringing some more business in now that the economy seems to be showing some signs of turning. I haven't seen a lot of it yet in the transportation industry. However, once the transportation industry turns, we all know that the rest of the economy is on the mend, so it's starting to turn itself. I guess I did, you know, I raised a family here. I've been active in the community for as long as I've lived here, and I've kind of grown up, as a youngster in Wisconsin, with my parents, teaching me, leading me by example. You only get out of your community what you put into it. Well, I've put a lot of hard work and a lot of effort into this community, and I'd like to be able to continue that legacy, so I'm asking you for your vote in April. Thank you.
I want to say thank you to everybody that's put this together. Thank you for the community. I love everything that's been going on in here, and I want to see it continue. We moved in back in April of 1997. I have raised two beautiful daughters, one 19, one almost 18, who's going to graduate this year. I've got a 7-year-old at home, and I want to see everything that I've seen over the past 17 years just continue going on. Thank you.
Thanks again to all of you for coming out and listening to what we have to say. I have a real love for this village, and that's one of the reasons I did all this volunteer work for so many years, and I think I can do more as a trustee. And I look to my experience over many years in the military and following foreign and domestic issues, my business experience in the boards and commissions I've been on, and I think I can add much more to the village as being on the board. As a retiree and have the time, the talent, and the track record and the concern and commitment to help this village as we move into the future. And I realize too that even so, some of you might prefer another candidate or allegiance to them, and that's fine. Just remember there are 3 slots that have to be filled, one of which is even vacant. And I feel that I have the expertise and the caring to be one of those candidates. So once again, I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank all of you for coming. This is only my second visit to Hainesville, and I must say I'm impressed. It's a lovely community and should be very, very proud of it. And to hear such dedicated people running for the 3 positions, it is 3, right?
Yes.
Is certainly amazing to me. Thank you all for coming, and I do believe the candidates are going to stay around to answer questions individually. Thank you.